time India won a test match at Melbourne, one-day cricket was still played in whites, and India had never won a World Cup, let alone win 3 of them right now. And also the current captain Virat Kohli wasn't even born. As for my two experts in VVS, Laxman, Brad Hodge, they were just 7 years of age because India won it way back in 1981. Let's quickly take a look at what happened on day 5. Very little actually, because 258 is where Australia found themselves at the end of day 4. 261. They could just add 3 runs before they lost those 2 last wickets that they had, losing this test match by 137 runs. The star for India with the ball, 9 for 86, Jasprit Bumrah. The only centurion of the match was Cheteshwar Pujara with 106, which he got in the first innings. VVS Laxman, Brad Hodge with me. This time no points to be given. One word answers. To begin with, best individual performance.
Pujara.
Brad?
Yeah, Bumrah.
Bumrah. Okay. Defining session of the match.
The partnership between Virat Kohli and
Pujara. Okay. Brad, for you?
Yeah, I think the Pujara Kohli partnership was important for sure.
Right. Best catch of the match.
Mayank Agarwal, the one he took off Finch.
Finch, okay, with that
Short
mid-off,
mid-wicket
straight-ish.
catching.
Yeah,
position.
okay. Okay, Brad, for you?
Yeah, I think Mayank Agarwal at the bat pad.
The bat pad, okay, where he was at short leg. Okay, now this one you could use a line or maybe even 2 lines. Australia's strategy for SCG.
I think learn, not strategy, but talk about attitude. Learn from the fight, grit, determination approach shown by Pat Cummins.
Okay, Brad, for you?
They have to bat well in the first innings. This is just not getting enough in the first innings, so that'll be their strategy to try and post a total which they can defend or at least be in the game for.
Okay, bat well in the first innings. Correct. India's strategy now.
Start well in the first innings, either with the bat or ball.
Start well. That is your
because
mantra.
in Adelaide they won the match. They didn't start well in Perth on the first day.
Okay, Brad, for you?
Yeah, much the same. The strategy is pretty sound. They'll probably just have to just improve their opening partnerships, and that's probably about it.
Okay, now let's take a look back at this particular test match at Melbourne, which has allowed India to take that 2-1 lead. It wouldn't have been easy for the Indian team considering the way they lost at Perth. So, I mean, a great fight back shown by the Indian team to make this comeback.
Yeah, and we have seen this in this year. You know, India were 2-0 in South Africa, and they came back strongly and won the Joburg test match, especially on a wicket which at some stage the umpires felt and the match referee felt was dangerous. But the Indian team didn't want to buckle down. Indian team didn't want to leave the ground. You know, they wanted to play and they won that test match. Again, the way they came back after losing the first 2 test matches in England. At Lords, they lost badly. Before that, at Edgbaston, came and won the Nottingham test match. So this is not something which is happening for the first time. But what I really enjoyed was the openers, you know, and I would like to give a special mention to both Vihari and Mayank Agarwal, because that was the area of concern. And India winning the toss, green pitch, Mayank Agarwal playing for the first time in Australia, first test match, Boxing Day, and which is in front of packed house. And then Vihari opening for the first time in international cricket. But both of them, the amount of deliveries they consumed, not losing a wicket, it's not necessary. They've added more than 50 runs. And I think that's the kind of approach you want to look for from youngsters. You know, so I think that must have really, probably inspired the other teammates. That 2 youngsters have done a job for the team. And the way they stuck to the being ruthless, the bowling unit has been really found. You find that character in the bowling unit, because they were the ones who didn't deliver on day 1 in Perth, the way they bounce back. So I think it all depends on the mental approach, which was excellent to see after the loss at Perth.
We heard from Captain Virat Kohli after that win. It's an unusual position that the Indian team find themselves in, leading a series in Australia, going into the final test match. And what does this win really mean for the Indian team? As I mentioned, it's come after a long time at the MCG. First time 2 test wins in the same series in Australia since 77-78. That's even going further back from the 81 win we were talking about. First test win at the the MCG since 1981. I mean, it doesn't come very often here at this ground for the Indian team. First win in a Boxing Day test in Australia in 8 attempts. Okay, this is really interesting. So it's a record-breaking win, if you could say that, for the Indian team. The performance that they've shown, and we were talking how they lost at Perth, then came back here to register that win. Brad, I'll come to you. You know, usually we see in a test match, the pendulum keeps shifting session by session. But would you say in this test match, Australia were always playing the catch-up game? India were the better side from right word go?
Yeah, absolutely. I think India dominated, and VVS makes a good point where, you know, the courage of Virat Kohli to win the toss and, you know, bat on a wicket which, you know, we had a lot of talk about that was going to have more grass, was a fraction green. And then for the openers, just to take time out of the game and settle the nerves in front of a big crowd, gave the opportunity for Pujara and Virat to bat really well, post a big total of 443. And from that moment, they were always in control of the game. I think Australia being completely outplayed by a dominant Indian side. I think the inclusion of Jadeja was also a positive one, and they completely outplayed Australia in all areas, catching, bowling and fielding as well.
You talk about Virat Kohli's decision at the time. Could it also be the reason that he read the pitch well this time, which wasn't happening in the previous test matches? Because also played a spinner here. Because at that time it looked really fresh with the grass. Everyone thought that no, you should bowl first. Payne actually came out and said no, I would have bowled. But the Indians read the pitch well.
Yeah, I think so, and that's so important, you know, because especially when you lost a game in Perth, and there was so much of debate about the Indian team not reading the wicket well, playing with 4 quick bowlers. I think Virat was spot on, you know, and it was the right decision to bat, keeping in mind what's going to happen on the 3rd, 4th or 5th day. And I think it was good to see the batsmen playing to the conditions. You know, even the partnership between Virat and Pujara was to the conditions and was to the situation. They didn't look to be over-aggressive. And they played with a lot of discipline, you know. So I think Virat was spot on as far as the decision making was concerned.
Since I'm talking about the pitch, the last pitch got rated poor. How would you rate this pitch if you were the match referee?
Yeah, I think it's fine, you know, because as I told, the first and second day there was uneven bounce, you know, but on the 3rd, 4th and 5th day I didn't see any uneven bounce. Even though the ball was just keeping low, there was not something which was spectacular, and I thought the bowlers bowled well. It was nothing to do with the wicket. On the first day I expected a lot more pace on the wicket, keeping in mind that you're playing at MCG, but it was slow, it was placid, and just the awkward bounce or the uneven bounce was something which was a concern. But as the match progressed, in fact the bounce became more even.
Okay, Brad, has the way this particular pitch behaved saved the Boxing Day test match for Melbourne?
I thought the wicket was fine, and I often said that you can't judge a pitch until two sides have batted on it. And Australia failed miserably in their first innings compared to India's on what was good batting conditions. And I liked the way that the game was up for grabs at the end here. You still felt that if Australia were 3 or 4 down, you could easily chase another 140, but that wasn't the case. India were far too strong. And I think the wicket was good. It was probably a case of really good bowling in the first day, and also India's discipline to just play within their boundaries and just wear Australia down. They weren't extravagant. You probably could have scored at 3 runs and over, but they chose not to. I think the wicket was suitable for everyone, actually.
All right. Plenty of comments coming on our YouTube channel as well as Facebook, and most of them are about the Sydney Test match. But we'd love to hear from you on this Test match just gotten over. So do send in your questions. I'll try and put those questions to VVS Laxman and Brad Hodge. For the moment, we've got one question, and this is about the pitch because we're talking about it. And this is Arun. He says, how much role did toss play in the result of this test?
Well, not much, I feel, because it was just the application of the Indian batsmen compared to the Australian batsmen, and I think both the sides will be really proud of the bowling effort, because even Australia, they didn't give away too many runs. The scoring rate was slow, and I thought that the Indian bowlers were sensational as well. But I think it boiled down to the way the Indian batsmen applied themselves, and the batsmen who got start converted that into a big score in the form of Pujara getting 100, Virat Kohli getting 80 odd runs, and then Rohit Sharma getting a half century, Mayank Agarwal getting his first half century. Whereas unfortunately for Australia, that didn't happen in their first innings. And I think that's where the match tilted in the favor of India.
Okay. Yes. I mean, if you look at that particular session, that India, the way they performed, we're getting again plenty of questions about the Indian team performance. We'll start with the man of the match. That was Jasprit Bumrah. Remember, he picked up 9 wickets, and that's the first time that any Indian pace bowler has picked up 9 wickets in a Test match, and that has been the reason that he's been given the man of the match performance. But for you, it's still Pujara.
I mean, again, credit to Jasprit Bumrah for the way he bowled, and again Pat Cummins was another contender for man of the match. But I thought Jasprit Bumrah, Cheteshwar Pujara's knock was instrumental in India getting to a score of more than 400. And the application, the patience with which he played, and also the partnership he stitched with Virat Kohli was very, very important, keeping in context of the game and how the batsmen fared on this wicket. So Pujara was someone who impressed me a lot. But you can't take anything away from Jasprit Bumrah. He's been sensational the entire year. In fact, he would be my player of the year along with Virat Kohli. Virat Kohli in the batting department and Jasprit Bumrah in the bowling department have been sensational for India.
I was talking about no Indian pacer has done that. I mean, that's an impressive list to be a part of. You've got Kapil Dev, Ajit Agarwal. Kapil Dev actually features twice, and you've got Syed Abid Ali too, picking up those 7 wickets. You've seen some of those bowling spells. You were part of that Ajit Agarwal Test match. Anil Kumble picked up 8 wickets in an inning in a Sydney Test match. How would you rate Bumrah's performance compared to that?
One of the best. And what I liked was not even once did he lose control, or did he look as if he was ineffective. And also that shows that how much he has worked hard on his fitness, how skillful he is, and how much control he has got over his bowling. Because for me the hallmark of a bowler is easy executing the plans he has got for each and every batsman, and right from ball 1 he's on the money. He knows where he has to land the ball, and he does that efficiently, and the variations he's got. So one thing which really makes sure that Bumrah is way ahead of other bowlers in international cricket, especially in Test match cricket, is the amount of variations he's got. And he almost reminds me of Wasim Akram. Because for me, the Wasim Akram was the toughest bowler I faced, because of the amount of variations he had and control over those variations. And Bumrah has got that variation just like Wasim had.
Okay, a right-handed Wasim Akram is what he reminds you of. Okay, I mean, because of the variation, as VVS was mentioning, that he has. In fact, the last time an Indian player got a man of the match at a Melbourne Test match was way back in 1999. Sachin Tendulkar got that award, and now you've got Jasprit Bumrah win the man of the match on this iconic cricket ground. Plenty of questions coming. We'll try and take some of those, but for the moment we'll turn our attention to a very interesting chat. We're talking about the pace bowlers doing well, Indian pace bowlers of course, but also the Australian fast bowlers have done really well. But there has been a very interesting difference in the way they've got their wickets. Let's start with how they performed with the new ball. Now if you take a look at that, it's the Australian fast bowlers that have done slightly better than the Indian bowlers. I'm just looking at the strike rate there, and look at the strike rate for the Australian fast bowlers at 48 vis-a-vis India, which is 74. So that's a massive difference there in terms of how they've taken wickets. 21 wickets for the Australian fast bowler, 14 for the Indian fast bowlers. Now let's turn our attention to the same bowlers bowling with the old ball. When I talk about the old ball, I'm talking about 41 to 80th over, and here you have a difference. Now this is tilting in favor of the Indian fast bowlers. Look at that strike rate of 52. That goes to 100 for the Australian fast bowlers. They've only picked up 6 wickets and 15 for the Indian bowlers. VVS, why do you think there is this contrast there?
I think style of bowling will be number one, because both Hazelwood and Mitchell Starc are someone, who likes to swim the ball and who love to pitch the ball up. Except Pat Cummins, all the other 2 bowlers are not the hit the deck bowler. Whereas from India's point of view, all 3 fast bowlers are hit the deck bowler. And it also, second, it boils down to the fitness levels of the players. And I am really proud of this, that the Indian fast bowler looked more fit than the Australian fast bowlers, barring Pat Cummins. Because when you saw Hazelwood or Mitchell Starc, I didn't see that kind of rhythm right from the first match. Starc, we've spoken a lot. In Perth, it looked the Mitchell Starc we have always wanted to see, or we've seen. But in Adelaide and even at MCG, it didn't look even a shade of Mitchell Starc. So I just feel the fitness and the lengths the Indian fast bowler bowl with the oldish ball, and that's so important.
Could one reason be the fact that when they play first-class cricket in India, usually in India you don't get too much with the new ball, so you have to rely to pick up wickets with the old ball. So probably.
Now the point is these players don't play too much of first-class cricket.
Yeah, I mean,
they
I'm
play
just
so
saying
much of
growing up.
international cricket. But I just feel that the action and the lengths they hit, whether with the old ball or with the new ball, is totally different to the Australian bowlers. If you see, Pat Cummins is the bowler who is very similar to the three Indian bowlers. Majority of the times he's hit the deck bowler who bowls a lot of deliveries on the length, good length, a shot of good length. And with Kookaburra ball, you can only swing the ball in the first 20 overs. But as the ball gets older, the ball doesn't swing at all, and that's when you have to change your length, that's when you have to change your style of bowling, which unfortunately was not in favor of Hazelwood and Mitchell Starc, but it was in favor of the Indian fast bowlers.
Brad, your thoughts? What do you reckon is the reason that we've seen that contrast there?
Yeah, definitely. I think that I concur with what Vivi has said. I think the outstanding fitness levels of the Indian fast bowlers is allowing the consistency all throughout the day. They've been relentless with their plans and their lines and lengths, and it's been an awesome performance. I think Mitchell Starc was probably short of a gallop before he came into the series, and you can see that he just quite hasn't hit his straps, and it's paying the price, unfortunately for us. But it's hard to put down as to why those figures are so differential, but it's also. It has to just be fitness and skill sets.
The other thing that you'd notice, because we're talking about performance with the old ball, the way Mohammad Shami was reverse swinging, no other Australian bowler could do or possess that kind of skill in this test.
And that's a surprise, because I'm not sure how Mohammad Shami was able to reverse swing, and none of the other bowlers were able to reverse swing. It's because when the ball is reversing, the ball is already
same.
It's the same. So I mean, it's something which was surprising for me, and this is not only in this test match, even at Adelaide I think it was Shami who was reverse swinging the ball more than the other bowlers. So that's something which is very strange, and I think Australia have to work on reversing. And this, we're talking about bowlers who are bowling in their home conditions. They know this ball much better than the Indian bowlers know, because Indian bowlers have bowled a lot with SG Test, which reverses very quickly because it's a different leather altogether. Here there's more glaze to the Kookaburra ball, whereas SG Test is a leather ball which can be scrubbed off because of the surfaces. But I think it's strange, but Shami is brilliant. Shami is brilliant, and that's why his record speaks for second innings king, because there's a lot of wear and tear on the wicket, and which allows the ball to reverse easily.
All right, we're talking about how the Australian bowlers have been matching the Indian fast bowlers, even the spinner Nathan Lyon, but it's the Australian batting that's let them down. Now, Brad, let me come to you. Do you think Australia can overcome this batting crisis that they're going through at the moment, looking ahead to Sydney?
To be quietly blunt, I don't think so. No, I think
that's the short answer.
India. I think they're in a dominant position, and then with such a short turnaround, only three days to the start or 4 days, I really do think that they're searching for answers. There's a lot of batsmen questioning their abilities and techniques, and I think that they've got some worries for sure.
Okay, and the other thing is, as Brad is saying, the gap is very, very short. How do you fix a problem like that in the middle of the series? Do you draft in new players? Do you stick with these players? Plenty of questions for Australia to answer. But let's take a look at how much time the Australian batsmen have been spending on the crease. We're comparing the Indian top order versus the Australian top order, and these are the average balls faced. And if you look at the openers, it's pretty much the same also, because India had an unsettled opening pair. But it's number 3 and 4, that's a major difference you can see between Australia and India, and then number 5, 6, 7 is a place where Australia actually match up. So as I'm looking at that, in fact, the tail, we all know Australia is doing better. It's that number 3 and number 4 which is
which we discussed, Nikhil. We discussed that because Steve Smith and Warner are not there, a lot of responsibility was going to be on Sean Marsh and Usman Khawaja, because they are the two experienced batsmen. You can't expect too much from Travis Head, Hanscom, or Mitchell Marsh in this series, or in this year when Australia are going through a problem in the absence of two established players, backbone of Australian batting. But unfortunately, just like the way Pujara and Virat Kohli have taken the responsibility, along with Ajinkya Rahane. He didn't convert those starts or half centuries into centuries, but I think the number 3, 4 and 5 have done well for India in this test series. Unfortunately, that's not the case as far as Usman Khawaja and Sean Marsh. And I think that is where Australia is struggling. It's not the opening pair because Aaron Finch is not a regular opener even for Victoria. Harris is making his debut in this series, so you expected a lot from Sean Marsh and Usman Khawaja. Unfortunately, they have not delivered. Khawaja played a good innings at Perth. Sean Marsh played a good innings at Perth, but what is required is not those half centuries, not those 30s and 40s. You want a substantial score, and that score has to be 100 and above. And that's why Australia is missing David Warner and Steve Smith, because when you see the record of these two batsmen, they've always converted their starts into hundreds. And at the top of the order, you require hundreds. You can't be satisfied with 30s, 40s. The team will not benefit and you will not benefit from that.
Okay, let's take a question from Facebook. And interesting you talk about the hundreds, because we haven't seen an Australian 100 so far in the series. I think in Usman Khawaja got one in the series before that. Question for Hodge: how come Australia don't have the players which they used to have during your era? Is it system that's not producing quality players, or the selection process isn't on merit? Brad?
Well, we've been talking long and hard behind the scenes about this particular issue, and we're trying to get to the bottom of it ourselves. And I think it goes back to about 7 years or a decade ago when it was Greg Chappell that sort of decided that this youth policy was going to be more prevalent, and a lot of the older senior players who were good players were pushed on probably a little bit too early, and now we see a shortcoming of that experience is passed on to the youngsters about how to go about their game. The selection as well, I'm just not sure that there's enough emphasis on like really good performances. We seem to be promoting mediocrity, and that's not going to stand up in Test match cricket. There's a lot of issues that we need to sort out, but we're certainly going through a trough, and you can't be at the top all the time. So we'll climb back out of this in some short period of time.
Of course, you go through a graph up and down. Every international team goes through that. One question I've got on YouTube for you, Brad. This is Vishal Swarna. He wanted to know, because we were talking about reverse swing, and he wants to know, is Finch mentally ready to play a test match? We've got two questions from Vishal. We'll let you answer this one. Is Finch mentally ready to play a test match? We'll take that first.
Yeah, I think he was, but I don't think it was in the opening position. I think the selection panel, having chosen Finch, if they thought that he was ready to play a test match, that's fine, and I think he was, but I don't think it was ever in the top 3 or 4. I think he was definitely a middle order player, number 5 and 6. He's batted for the last 3 or 4 years for Victoria and Surrey in that position, and I think the selectors really need to look at that selection and why they chose Aaron to open the batting, and how drastically it's gone wrong for Aaron. He's a good friend of mine, so I know him pretty well, and I think he'll be really wrestling with the fact that he had to open the batting for Australia. And look, when you do get picked, you do the job for your team, no matter what it demands. You don't get to be able to choose, as we've seen with Bahari, the luxuries of batting down the middle order. If you think that that's what your job needs to be, you just put your hand up and nod your head and do it. I think that's where Finchy found his place in the team.
All right, he's doing the job that he's been given. The other question that Vishal had for you, Brad, was that we saw Australian bowlers reverse swinging during the Ashes. Why aren't they being able to do that here in this series?
That's a good, tricky question, I guess. Maybe because a couple of players aren't there to allow that to happen.
But he's being elite honesty. He's displaying that. He's been very, very honest, Brad, in his answer. But my point is, you don't.
I didn't understand his honesty. What was it about?
You really want him to spell it out. That's what you want him to do. No, but my question to you is, not every time do you need external forces to reverse swinging. Can it not be done within the rules?
No, it can be done.
Yeah,
it can be done. And being part of a team which had Zahir Khan, which had Ashish Nehra, Ajit Agarkar, later Irfan, RP Singh, all used to swing the ball, conventional at the same time, reverse swing. And this is something which I learned when I played against Pakistan in 1999. And it was unbelievable. I was the opener of the side along with Sadgopan Ramesh, and the first 8 or 10 overs, Pakistan would not even bother how many runs we were getting. All I was getting was short pitch deliveries, not over pitch deliveries. Nothing was coming on the seam. It was cross seam, and they were trying to scruff up the leather part, the shiny part, and they were not bowling on the seam. And after 8 to 10 overs, suddenly the ball used to start reversing. So there is a way of getting the ball to reverse. But the challenge is in Australian conditions or sometimes in English conditions, if the wicket is green, see in subcontinent it's easy because the wicket is not necessarily has got that grass cover. So it is brown, it's very easy to scuff up the ball by bowling cross seam. But there are ways, how you put your sweat, how you put the saliva and, and shine and make one side very heavy and the other side is light. So there are various ways of doing that. I think when Jimmy Anderson, Flintoff, they were all there playing against us, I used to see the ball reversing. So there are ways of doing that. It's not necessary that you have to use a sandpaper to scruff up the ball. There are ways how to make the ball heavy. It's all physics.
Yeah.
One side has to be light, one side has to be heavy, and then you use that side where the ball is heavy to get the reverse swing or conventional swing where the ball has got the shiny part of the ball. So it's all about having that experience. So I'm not sure why Hazelwood or Mitchell Starc, because we've seen in the past that both Mitchell Starc and Hazelwood could reverse swing the ball. Even with white cricket ball, white Kookaburra, they used to reverse it.
Of course, using saliva and all are pretty much legal and within the rules. But interesting you talk about, the strategy that Pakistani bowlers would have with you. So that would change the conventional logic where you say give the first few overs to the bowler and then runs will come.
That was so that was with SG Test ball, because SG Test ball with the new ball it doesn't swing like a Kookaburra or a Duke's ball. And wherever there is no conventional swing, even when you're playing Ranji Trophy, when you're playing first class cricket, there's not much for the fast bowlers with the new ball. The moment it gets to 20-25 overs, the SG Test balls reverse swings, and that's when it's dangerous for the batsman and it's in the favor of the bowler. So I always felt that when you're batting in India or in subcontinent conditions, it's easy to bat top 3 and it's tough to bat at 4, 5, 6.
Okay, interesting. We're talking about how the Australian bowlers weren't allowed to or weren't being able to reverse swing the ball. Yet you've got Pat Cummins being the outstanding bowler that he's been in this calendar year. We're talking about 2018 and his performances. He's got the best average across all bowlers in international cricket as far as fast bowlers are concerned, with a minimum of 40 wickets being the criteria. Pat Cummins there, look at his average of 19.97 compared to, of course Rabada has got more wickets compared to him, but look at that average for Pat Cummins, having played 8 test matches. They're incredible figures for Pat Cummins. And then to remember that he's also been getting runs for Australia. Brad, to you, if you were to look back, we're nearing the year end now. If you were to look back, probably Pat has been the cricketer of the year for Australia.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I'm not surprised. He's an outstanding performer. He's an outstanding athlete. We've seen him not only deliver 30 overs with the ball, but then create an amazing run out of Pujara in that first day in Adelaide, after bowling 30 overs. He can bat, he can bowl, he can field. It's just been a great story for Patrick Cummins. And it was, probably 8 years ago when he first come onto the scenes and he took, I think it was 15 wickets against South Africa in his first test in Johannesburg. And he got a lot of injuries. He's come back and he's performed well, and he's been an outstanding contributor for Australia. This effort himself was such a lion-hearted performance to try and drag his team back into this contest was just phenomenal. It's unfortunate that we should be celebrating, a performance like that with a victory instead of a defeat. But he's been phenomenal.
Well, this is something we discussed, that had Australia won this test match, Pat Cummins was the clear man of the match. Before the series started, all eyes were on Mitchell Starc and Hazelwood, and yet it's Pat Cummins who's emerged as a star for Australia.
No, I think all eyes were on the 3 fast bowlers and Nathan Land, because everyone were very clear that Australia's strength is their bowling lineup, and they've got 4 world-class bowlers, and it was the battle of the batsmen. Whichever team batted well, they would end up winning the test matches, and as it turned out, it's true, because whichever team has posted good total, especially in the first innings, have ended up winning the test match. In Perth, Australian batsmen batted better than the Indian batsmen, they went on to win the test match. So I think credit to Pat Cummins because he was someone, again, there was a lot of talk about his workload management because he had stress fracture, he was going through a lot of injuries, and as Hodge mentioned that it's been long time since he made his debut, but he was out of the longer version of the game because of his fitness issues, but to come back, work hard on his fitness, and what is impressive is the intensity with which he bowls those long spells. He comes back strong in the third and the fourth spell, which also is a testimony of the fitness levels he has. So it's brilliant. But I started off saying, what is the strategy for Australia at SCG? It's the only strategy is play with an attitude what Pat Cummins has exhibited in this test match. Now, you can't change the technique overnight, you can't change the talent of the players overnight, but what you can change, which is in your control, is the attitude. And I think the attitude of Pat Cummins is just sensational. To get Pujara run out in that fashion at Adelaide, it is purely attitude. After bowling so many overs, to pick up and off balance hit directed from the mid-on, from that angle, is purely attitude. So that attitude is what should rub and inspire his colleagues.
All right, for those of you watching us on social media platforms, do send in your questions about this test match. I see a lot of questions coming for the Sydney test match. We'll have enough time to talk about that a little later, but for the moment we're concentrating and celebrating India's win at MCG. Talking about celebrating someone, Cheteshwar Pujara was outstanding in this particular test match. He's VVS Laxman's man of the match for his performance here, for the 106 that he got in the first innings. And if you see, this year has been incredible for Cheteshwar Pujara. I mean, looking at his numbers, you'd realize that it's been, if you take a look at before 2017 and since 2017, I mean, just look at that before and after, and that average going from 29 up to 37. Even the number of hundreds he's got is 3 to 1. Viewers, you were continuously talking about attitude for Pat Cummins. What has changed for Pujara? Attitude?
Attitude and also his approach. Because in the past, there have been a lot of questions about his strike rate, which I believe has affected the approach of Pujara in test match cricket. Not so much in India, because he always had a formula of getting those big runs in India. But when you're going overseas, he tried to change something about his approach. Second thing is he's worked hard on his technique, because in the past when he was playing in overseas conditions, he had a habit of planting his left leg across, because of which any ball which was nipping back in, there was a bat and pad gap which resulted in him getting LBW or bowled frequently. But what has happened is he's changed his technique. His left leg is not going too much across, and it's going more towards the bowler, and he's playing with a straight bat. There's not much of bat and pad gap which is being created now. The third thing is now the amount of shots is improved, especially square of the wicket on the back foot is something which is instrumental in him scoring runs, because when you're playing again in overseas conditions, the toughest shot, if the wicket is seaming, if there is swing on offer for the bowlers, is a drive. But how many times have you seen Pujara drive? Until unless it's half volley, then he's driving with authority because he's transferring his weight, but he's not playing that flamboyant cover drive which probably used to happen in the past because of his initial movement. So I think this technical changes and accepting the fact that the only way Pujara can get a big score is by occupying the crease and playing X number of deliveries. And he's accepted that fact and is believing in that template and is following the template.
All right, I'll take that to Brad as well. Brad, I remember Ricky Ponting actually questioning Cheteshwar Pujara's approach, actually saying that, the way he batted, not scoring too many runs at a quick pace would actually cost India this particular test match. But it turned out to be completely different. He's proving Ricky Ponting wrong there.
He certainly is, and he averages over 50 in test match cricket. So, in any words, that's phenomenal. And scoring the runs he does for his team is what's required, and it's giving his team an opportunity to win. So, he missed out unfortunately for selection early on in England tour, and then he's come back. He's worked hard on his game. He's obviously prepared very well for this tour, and we've seen him play shots on this tour which we haven't seen him play before. So it's particularly square of the wicket, the uppercut and pull shot, and he's just been dominant. I mean, Australia, I'm not sure how they're going to get him out in Sydney either. He's in an outstanding run of form, and he'll continue to get better and better.
As you mentioned, one of the reasons for him to have that turnaround is the fact that he's realized that this is the way he can get his run. But it can't be easy to get comfortable in that skin because of the questions that are raised. As I mentioned, Ricky Ponting saying that, oh, this could have cost India the test match. Fans generally don't like you the way that you're playing. How tough would it be then for a batsman to say, no, this is the way I'm going to play, irrespective of what people say on the outside?
Yeah, I think it comes with experience, because someone who has mentally tough as Pujara also got influenced by what people are talking about him, and also the fact that he's not part of any IPL franchise, not part of any ODI team. Sometimes it can creep into your game, and you want to be aggressive. You want to show to the world that I am someone who can play all the three formats. But I think what has happened in the last 2 years, especially after the West Indies series where he was dropped from that when India toured West Indies, and not being picked for any IPL franchise, playing for Yorkshire has helped him to assess and analyze his game a lot more. And I feel when you're playing at the highest level for a longish time, which Pujara has already been there since 2008 or 2010, you realize that you can't control what others are talking about you. So he's not even bothered what Ricky Ponting is talking, or he's not even aware of what Ricky Ponting must have said about him, what we are talking about him. He only think as an international player, especially as a senior international player, you got the responsibility of just going out and getting runs. Now you know your strengths and you stick to your strengths, and the more number of times you stick to your strengths, the more consistent you will become, and that's something which Pujara has shown. And not only with Pujara, all the great players. International cricket, they stick to the same template. I think Ricky Ponting also would agree that there was a style of Ricky Ponting which he stuck to over the years, irrespective of whether he's playing in Australia or in challenging conditions or not. There's an approach of Ricky Ponting, and more he stuck to that approach, the more consistent he was.
Okay, we'll take a question now. Since we're talking about Cheteshwar Pujara, we've got one question on the number 3 batsman from India. Arjit wants to know, do you see Pujara as an opener that opens up a slot for another spinner / all-rounder for Sydney?
Well, he can open, there's no doubt about that, but I'm not able to understand and digest the fact that why you're trying to disrupt a settled batting lineup to fill in an opening slot.
Why fix something that's not broken?
No, but it's broken. The opening slot is still not yet settled. Yeah, Mayank did well, but Vihari didn't do well in this match. So that's a tough question which I'm sure the chairman of selection committee and the team management have to answer in Sydney. They've got 2 experienced batsmen in Murli Vijay and KL Rahul. Will they go back to one of them, or will they stick to the experiment which didn't succeed in Melbourne? But why do you have to change the number 3, number 4, number 5 and number 6 for that matter? For solving an issue, which is a problem. So I wouldn't change a bit. I would have Pujara at 3. I would have Virat at 4. I would have Rahane at 5.
Quick question from Avinash on YouTube. He wants to know, in all this celebrating India's win, we've forgotten that India collapsed in the second innings. Is that a cause for concern?
It is definitely a cause for concern. We also, there's one more cause for concern is the tailenders of the opposition batting lineup has been scoring runs. So a good team will not, and as Virat rightly mentioned at the post-match presentation, saying a good team will never ever just be satisfied with the result. A good team will introspect the good things which has happened and the things which they have to work on, and they get better at the things which hasn't gone their way, and they will stick or probably get better even at the things which has gone their way. So I think it's the number 1 test playing nation in world cricket, and I'm sure they will be dispassionately talking and introspecting about the process, not only thinking about the result.
Okay, VVS mentioned that there is a problem that exists in the top of the order as well. The opening slot needs to be addressed, but we had one debutant in Mayank Agarwal opening in this test match, and he did rather well. I'll like your thoughts, the two of you, how his performance has been in this test match. This is the 3rd test match. You got 76 runs in the first, 42 in the second, with a decent strike rate as well, and also spent a lot of time, more than 100 balls. Just tells you that yes, he is a true blue opener who loves to spend time on the pitch. Brad, your thoughts on Mayank Agarwal's debut?
Outstanding. It was a phenomenal performance, and you can't ask for anything more from the Team India than your opener going out there and scoring, in excess of 100 runs in a test match in either innings. So played beautifully. Couldn't ask for anything more.
Mayank?
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very impressed, and I've maintained this is it's not only about his technique, but more so about his approach. Not being overawed in playing in front of 73,000 people watching in big occasion. Boxing Day Test match is followed all over the world, and someone who's just landed in Australia 3 days before the start of the Test match without any practice match, just 3 practice sessions. It's never easy. But what he's shown, and which he discussed and talked about when KL Rahul interviewed him at the end of the first day, was he was not overawed by the big occasion. He took this challenge as an opportunity, and brilliant. The way he batted, the way he approached the innings, and I think he's got a long future. It also shows that when you play first class cricket for a long period of time, you perform well, and if you get the chance at the right time, and I still feel that he got chance probably 5 or 6 months later than when he deserved it, but because of those performances and because of that experience of playing first class cricket, established first class cricketer, that helped him to go and approach this match as a normal match. He was not overawed by the big occasion. And I still remember Brad Hodge's statement at the start of the Test match that working with him at Kings 11, he felt that he was a very nervous character, but not even once he was nervous while fielding at short leg, while fielding at short mid wicket, or just the body language he exhibited batting in the first innings and in the second innings was exemplary.
All right, interesting. Brad, your thoughts? Because you've spent time with him during the IPL. How did you see that transformation from T20 cricketer that you knew and now to a Test match opener?
Yeah, well, it just looks like someone who understands his game and is comfortable in his game, and also appreciative of the opportunity to open the batting for Team India. It looked like he was just in a good space to do that, trusted his technique, and he looked like he had a great deal of confidence about him. So it was a different player from what I saw in Kings 11 Punjab, where he's questioning, how to go about it. He just looked like he knew exactly what he wanted to try and achieve as an opening batsman for India.
And that's amazing what Brad's saying. This was just 6 months back when he was with Kings 11 Punjab under Brad Hodge, and to change his mindset from being a nervous character. And also we have to remember that after scoring tons and tons of runs, he didn't get a chance. Prithvi Shaw was selected ahead of him, who went to England. So it's very easy for a player, because I've seen a lot of players during my generation who scored so many runs in first class cricket, never getting an opportunity playing for India, and it was very easy for them to get depressed, very easy for them to get frustrated. But you didn't see that. He went back to domestic cricket, still continued to score runs. He went back whenever he got an opportunity with India, he continued to score runs and waited patiently for the opportunity to come. And when the opportunity came, he took it up with both hands, and that shows that he has worked not only on his technical part, but also his mind, which is great to see.
Not only is he scoring runs, he's scoring runs in the way he knows that is aggressive cricket. He's always said he idolizes Virendra Sehwag, so tries to play aggressive cricket even in Test matches. We're getting a lot of questions. We'll take one for Brad Hodge, and this is from YouTube. And Dr. Rishi wants to know, what is the nature of the Sydney pitch? I thought the character had changed the last few years from the traditional spinning paradise, Brad?
Yeah, it has done. There seems to be a lot more pace and bounce in the wicket. There's a lot more grass on the wicket. So usually in the past it has been good for batting days 1 and 2, and then turns into a bit of a dust bowl 3, 4 and 5. It certainly hasn't been the case. I think you see plenty of pace and bounce early on, and then you won't see those sort of pancake footholds that you used to get in the Sydney SCG pitch. It'll remain a lot more grass covered and flat, good for batting, but also good for bowling if you bend your back.
All right, so interesting. It'd be interesting to see how the Sydney Test match pans out. We'll take another question. This one is for VVS Laxman from Facebook. Savio Roy wants to know, does India make any changes for Sydney?
I wouldn't make any changes for the Sydney game, and I would stick to the same playing 11.
Okay. Would you also say this is India's best chance to win a Test series in Australia?
I've said that at the start of the series, because this is a very unsettled Australian batting lineup, very inexperienced, and also their technique was something which I was not confident about. You know, and India had a very, very potent bowling lineup. And Indian batsmen, even though they've not lived up to the potential in 2018 on overseas tours, but they had the potential and they've got the experience. So this is the best chance, you know, and I think it will be 3-1 India.
Okay, best chance for India. This is something a lot of analysts have maintained. But Brad, would you think that the Australian talk will be all around what they did in Perth, losing that first test match but making a comeback, something that they can look forward to now going into Sydney?
Oh, it's the only thing that they can call upon. Yeah, they can't really call upon their performance. But yeah, I think it's what VVS said. They just have to be concerned about the attitude and aptitude which what they want to take to Sydney and take, you know, those experiences in Perth and also the lion-hearted effort of Patrick Cummins and just get in there. And if everyone can deliver that sort of effort and performance, then they should be fine. We haven't got time to sit around and mull over another loss, and we know that our batting is not up to the standards. But if you can just have that sort of courage and fight and determination, then results may be better.
All right, towards the end of our program, we always take a look at our special segment called Fab Four, and we'll take a look at how VVS, Laxman and Brad Hodge have performed. Not plenty that happened on day 5. So you've got for Bumrah, 20 plus 20, it's for the wicket and the strike rate, I'm assuming. Ishant also giving you 20 points for that wicket, which takes your tally to 62 points. Let's take a look at how Brad has done. Remember, VVS was leading at the end of day 4. Brad has picked up 2 points alone for Pat Cummins, 1 from Nathan Lyon. Of course, Bumrah has given him that 20 plus 20, that's 43. So on the day itself, VVS Laxman has pulled a 19-point lead already. And then I shouldn't even say it, who's going to be leading, because he was leading at the end of day 4. He is the overall winner with 860 points. Brad got a nice number there, 3,777, but unfortunately...
That's the number of my car.
That's the number.
I'm not going to gift him my car though.
But he's finished seconds. Comments from VVS Laxman first, because third time lucky for you. Third test
so
match
when I lost in the first match, I sent my autobiography 281 and beyond to Brad. So I think he must have read that and he allowed me to win this. Brad, did you come out with your autobiography? I would love to read that.
No, I haven't yet, VVS. I'd upset far too many people, I would have thought.
So what are you going to gift in return to VVS?
I don't know. With that number of 777, I think that's Rishabh Pant's Delhi Daredevil's number.
Yes.
So I might actually get a signed shirt from Rishabh Pant and send it to VVS Laxman. Get him to wear it during IPL when he's in the Sunrisers Hyderabad dugout.
Oh, really? And which dugout you're going to be there, Brad, during the IPL?
No, unfortunately, I got the sack, mate, actually, so I can't be there.
He'll watch on TV. Okay, thank you so much for your company, Brad.
Thank you, Brad.
As well as VVS Laxman. But we're not going to leave you like this because we've got a series to look forward to. We've been talking about it on our program for the last 2 days. It's premiering on Netflix called Selection Day, and this is what you can expect out of it.
देखिए सर, मेरे दोनों लड़के चैंपियंस हैं।
माफ करना भगवान, मुझे तो क्रिकेट पसंद भी नहीं है।
I guess you'd like to see the cricket field.
No,
But you're on a cricket scholarship.
थोड़ा कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है।
लेकिन जब तक तू मेरी मदद नहीं करेगा, मैं तेरी मदद नहीं कर पाऊंगा।
हमारी डील है, तभी हम लोग आज़ादी पाएंगे।
I believe you.
Selection Day, streaming on 28 December, only on Netflix.
So if you're a cricket fan, do watch this series on Netflix. That's all that we have for you on our program, ESPN Cricinfo Match Day, brought to you by Maruti Suzuki.